Stevie, you're beyond, I suppose, beyond the practical side of football. You've launched StevieMcDonnell.ie, a weekly blog. Tell us a bit more about that.
It's a website I launched maybe about 3 months ago now. I've been thinking about doing it for quite a while, to be honest. Since I have retired, I've got into media work. I do BBC Radio, and over the last couple of years I got into a bit of motivational talking and going around to different businesses, schools and even GA clubs, whatever, and going in and saying my piece. And it's more so a platform to promote that type of work as well. And as part of the website there is a blog page as well. So quite often I would think a lot about Gaelic games and you know, different parts of it, and obviously free taking was mentioned earlier on. You know, I'd be a huge fan of free taking, and I just write what I believe is the right thing to do, and I write something that I hope is teaching others, teaching club players a thing or two about developing their own careers and you know, improving their own games, and that, you know, it has gained momentum over the last maybe a couple of weeks in particular, because, you know, I tried the first couple to see what type of interest was out there, and certainly, you know, the feedback has been positive. And when you're getting positive feedback, you're going to continuously write, you know, and put stuff out there to people to view and have an opinion about. But I have an opinion on quite a lot of things in terms of GA, and you know, it is a platform for me to express.
Well, that's great. We'll put the link up, of course, on the Facebook, YouTube and Twitter pages for Steve McDonnell Diary, folks. Great few articles on it, read a few of them myself. One of them that you did was in relation to the free taking, which I suppose is our social media question tonight. Jib, is there anything in for Stevie there, or any more comment on it?
Just on the free taking, Kieran Doherty has just said out of the hand because there's a better chance of it going over.
Right words. Scientific.
My thinking on this is, you know, I came from an era where, you know, when I was 8 or 9 years old, starting to play Gaelic football, you know, the rules were that all frees had to be taken from the ground. You know, and then the mid-90s, the changes come in, and you know, you had fantastic free takers likes of Ross Carr and Anthony Toole, boys like that in the mid-90s who were exceptionally good at free taking and always took them off the ground. And then coming into the noughties, you know, slowly but surely the onus was moving from taking the frees from the ground, and players were being coached. They weren't being coached. They started to take the frees from the hands, and for me, it's a fantastic skill as well. But you know, I think there's more skill in terms of putting the ball on the ground and dedicating yourself and dedicating time to practicing an art that I believe is lost in the game. You know, and looking at it closely, and probably when I got involved in coaching and management over the last couple of years, I've seen it more regular. You know, the frustration that I have when I see a player taking a free from his hands and missing from the 13 or 21 metre line, simply because I believe that these players take it for granted that it's an automatic point. Happened Colin Walsh, one of the best half-backs in the country, scored 2 fantastic points from play last week for Monaghan, but missed an easy free for his club at the weekend. Peter Hart yesterday as well. You know, even the best players in the country can miss frees from the hands. But I believe to put the ball on the ground, there's more concentration, there's more focus on a clear run-up, a clean strike, and striking that ball over the bar. But more emphasis has to be put on from a coaching aspect to the younger players of the country, throughout the country, to try to encourage them to strike the ball from the ground. The other thing is, when you're striking from your hands, you know, your whole body's moving, so it is. So you have to rely on so many more things to go right for you to kick the ball over the bar. A lot of the time, you know, it does go right for players who are practicing free kicks, but when you're placing the ball on the ground, you know, if you can get a good clean run up and a good clean strike, the odds are, if your angles are right, that the ball's going to go the direction that you want it to go.
Do you feel it's like an easier technique to master as such, because you know then each time you're doing it, like from practice, you know exactly where you are, you know exactly your run up, you know exactly where you're going to be striking the ball. Do you find it's an easier, where there's so, like you said, there's so many different things you're kind of thinking about whilst taking it out of your hand? Do you think it's I wouldn't say easier thing to master, like, but you get more of a repetition if you do it off the ground as such?
I would have more confidence kicking it from the ground. And I kick frees, and I kick frees out of my hands, you know, and I kick frees out of my hands when the grass wasn't the way I want it to be
Yeah,
cut,
yeah.
or when we are against maybe certain elements, whatever. But I always had more confidence placing the ball on the ground because that was the way I practiced from such a young age.
Yeah.
You know, and if coaches can take the responsibility now and encourage their younger players to start practicing off the ground, I think, you know, in 10, 15 years' time, you know, we'll have more consistency in terms of balls being kicked over the bar. How often do we see goalkeepers coming up now to kick frees? You know, and that's simply because a goalkeeper, when he's practicing his kickouts, is putting the ball on the ground, and he is more consistent with kicking the ball off the ground. Outfield players aren't as consistent because they're not encouraged or coached to put the ball down the ground.
Something you'd never see that underage training or club training now is fellas being encouraged to put the ball on
Exactly, and I was very fortunate as well. That, you know, we all go through our careers with fantastic coaches and all. I had a mentor and coach for maybe the first 4 or 5 years of my career called Thomas Mallon, and he was a great believer in the basic skills of the game, but keeping players behind, dedicated players behind to focus and concentrate on kicking the ball off the ground. And I was fortunate enough to be one of those players.